Welcome back to Greenlight Maine. Our inspiring Mainer this week is Kathie Leonard, who is the owner, president, and CEO of Auburn Manufacturing. It is so good to see you, Kathie.
Great to see you, Julian. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. And we appreciate you were a judge on Greenlight Maine, and now you're back as our inspiring Mainer. And you are a very inspirational person to so many people in Maine and beyond. Tell us, how did you get your start in manufacturing?
Well, I know a lot of people, having been a woman in manufacturing all this time, they always think that I must have inherited it. I didn't. I started it, and but I did start it with a partner who was male, so it takes two. And no, I when I moved to Maine back in the 70s, I'm not a native Mainer, but I moved here in the early 70s to get back to nature. Fell in love with Maine. I'd been from up north. I'd been from Michigan to begin with, and then I lived in Florida. So coming to Maine was just like sort of going back a little more to my roots. First job I got when I moved to Central Maine was to work at a textile factory in Lewiston called W.S. Libby Company, and they happened to be getting into some very interesting high temperature resistant fibers at that time. It was something to offset other areas of their business that had changed, and so they were looking for some new products. And I sort of lucked out and got put in charge of doing the marketing for those products. I had been hired as the secretary to the president, but he was pretty self-sufficient. So I ended up, or maybe I wasn't a very good secretary, so he had me get into marketing. And I was working with the companies that made the fibers, for instance, DuPont, and they really had good technical folks on their staff at the time, and I learned a lot. And going back to my background, my educational background, even though it was somewhat limited, I went to a community college and I studied technical writing there, and to get my as part of my associate's degree. And I loved writing succinctly and speaking succinctly, explaining how things work, that sort of thing. So working with a technical fiber was perfect for me. I didn't know all that at that time. I was only like 23, but as time went on, it became clear to me that, what, people are, I'm talking to these engineers, they're asking me questions, and I love to look things up, get information for them, sort of I like to think I'm a good customer service person, and I would just answer their questions, and little by little, I got to know what I was talking about in terms of heat resistance, K values, C values, whatever R values of insulation type materials. And I went on the road and did trade shows for them. And so eventually I broke away from that company. I worked with a gentleman there who wanted to go into his own business doing similar materials, but to focus more heavily in one area. So I did that. I left Libby, and I went on to business for myself at the age of 27. And so here I was, didn't know anything else, never been a CEO, obviously, never been much of, I'm always sort of a support person, and I had to sort of learn the hard way, making a lot of mistakes. But I did go back to school, went back to the University of Maine, and studied economics and accounting and HR, business, for human resource management, and sort of, found my way. I'm sort of a cookbook learner. If I've got a reason to learn something, I'll do it, and I'll read through it and do it. And so that's what all these years I keep learning how to grow into my job. And as it changes, you have to learn more stuff. But I stayed in business for 20 years with a partner, and then bought him out in 2000. He retired. And so here I am 20 years after that as a full owner of Auburn Manufacturing.
That's an amazing story. I mean, 27 years old, so many people don't even know what they want to do with the rest of their lives at
Mm-hmm.
27. Like, how was there a defining moment that came shortly after that, or was it years later that you were thinking, wow, like I've really made this work?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I probably shouldn't get into psychology, but there's a syndrome, an imposter syndrome that a lot of women have. As I understand it now, I thought I was the only person that ever had it, But at the time, I kept thinking, why am I can't do this. I'm not this, I shouldn't have this job, and so that was a tough thing to go through, kind of learning that I earned it. And I don't think I had earned it at 27. I mean, it just took some time. But when you're only two people in a business, anybody can be. We could have switched jobs, all the time. Who wants to be president this week or whatever? But as time went on, I learned how to be a better leader and a better manager. And I think when I became the sole owner of the company was the real turning point, because I'm a team player. I love to work as a team. I'm not a top-down leader. I'm a center-out leader. I like the being in part of a web, a flat organization where I'm in the center. I need to know everything, but I want to work with everybody else and as peers to a large extent. And so when I bought the company, I think that was when everything changed, and maybe the perception of others changed too, because when they see you, they oh, you are the owner. There's no question, like, oh, I thought you were the younger sister or something.
No, and you were like, no, it's just me. And
it's just me. Yeah, I've gotten more comfortable with that. Yeah, and I'll even interrupt people if they're talking to somebody in my organization who happens to be male and say, and they think they're the owner, or whatever, I just kind of like, no, that, or actually my people say it, no, that's not me, it's her, sort of thing. And that's always a little fun, but we try to have fun with it because I'm not so sure I'm not like that too. We all have a little bit of that in us. It's just sort of habit in terms of business ownership, and especially manufacturing. People just think manufacturing is so hard that, who would be involved in this unless, especially technical textiles. How did that ever happen? And so it's fun to explain that. And actually, I just sort of walked into it. I don't want to say fell into it, because I think I made my own place in the marketplace, but I did learn incrementally and walked into it, and I continue to walk through it. And so, yeah, I guess it surprises me now that I'm being put into this position where people want to know what I think about this and that and the other thing, because I'm like, oh, I'm just, regular Joe that happens to be in this job. But I think tenacity and experience, after a while, after 40 years, maybe you do, you earn the right to give your opinion once in a while. So
absolutely,
it's fun.
How about, is there a book or a podcast that you could give as advice to listen to that inspires you?
Well, having just, gone through COVID, this year, it's hard to think of inspiring books. It's been more all hands on deck. What's the latest CDC information? But I do like How I Built This as a podcast with Guy Raz. They're just wonderful stories, whether it's method, home use products, or just so many different things that he's covered over the years, Southwest Airlines, how did they start? And, those are really inspiring stories. And so I think listening to those are probably the best thing for me in terms of that. The rest of the stuff I read has been more like how to, how to do this or that, not so much inspiring stories of people.
That's great. Let's switch gears and talk about your family and some of the favorite things that you like to do in Maine.
Well, Auburn Manufacturing actually owns a camp up in Rangeley, Maine, on Rangeley Lake. We bought it back in 1989, and it's still there, and all our employees get to use it. Because of COVID, we didn't get to, weren't able to have everybody use it this summer and spring, and it needed some work too. So my husband and I went up there quite a bit and on weekends and did some, changes to the camp and invited then our family, our close family to visit, and with the grandkids, it was really helped us get through COVID. And so, being on a lake in the summer in Maine is awesome. We also have a boat, but we weren't able to bring that back from Florida this year because of COVID. So I love the ocean too. And if the boat had been, in port, at a marina, we might have spent time there. But, that's the great thing about Maine. We don't have to be, you can be on the ocean, you can be in the mountains, you can be on a lake. We like to hike. We've gotten some good hiking in this year. Just really, it's such a great state to do things outdoors, and we've had great weather this year to do it. In fact, my husband and I are going up to Southwest Harbor. I haven't been out of state since COVID, and I don't intend to for the near future. But we've done a couple of staycations, and we're going to Southwest Harbor this coming weekend just to get away for a few days, and I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, we're lucky to live in Maine.
Absolutely. There is something here for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Rangeley's beautiful. That's so great that you have that camp for your employees and your family. And
Mm-hmm.
also Southwest Harbor is a great getaway as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. You are an amazing person. You're
Oh,
so
thank
great
you.
for Maine. I'm so glad you made the decision to move here 40 years ago.
Me
And
too.
Maine definitely needs more people like you. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julie. Take
Take
care.
care.